want to see what humiliation looks like. It's not getting fired. Or tripping on stage. It's standing by a lake on the 4th of July, surrounded by 30 of your boyfriend's friends, crying happy tears, because the man you love is down on one knee holding a ring box. It's the feeling of your heart swelling so big you think it might burst, only to hear him laugh. Snap the box shut and say, "Psych." It's watching him stand up, turn to his ex-girlfriend, and toast her with a beer while his friends chant. She fell for it, and the worst part, seeing the red recording lights of 10 different iPhones pointed directly at your face, capturing the exact moment your soul leaves your body. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't scream. I didn't slap him. I didn't give them the show they wanted. My body went cold, like all the blood had just drained out of me into the dirt. I looked at Brandon, my boyfriend of 2 years, the man I paid rent for, the man whose credit score I was rebuilding. He was grinning. That lopsided, boyish grin I used to think was charming. He looked at Kayla, his ex, and winked. She was laughing so hard, she had to hold onto the railing of the deck. Justin and Ryan, his best friends, were shoving their phones closer to my face, zooming in on the tears that hadn't dried yet. Look at her face. Dude. Ryan laughed. That is priceless. Viral gold. I turned around and started walking toward my car. The gravel crunched under my sandals. The only sound I could hear over the roaring in my ears. Behind me, the laughter died down a little. "Babe." "Wait," Brandon called out. I kept walking. I heard his footsteps, jogging to catch up. He grabbed my arm just as I reached the driver's side door. "Alyssa, come on, don't be like that." I pulled my arm away. "Don't touch me." He rolled his eyes. It was just a joke. "Alyssa, a prank. God, you are so dramatic." He gestured back toward the party. Everyone else thought it was funny. Even Kayla thought it was funny. Why do you always have to ruin the vibe? I looked at him. Really looked at him. He wasn't sorry. He was annoyed. He was annoyed that I wasn't laughing at my own humiliation. "You proposed to me," I said, my voice flat, as a joke, in front of everyone. It wasn't a real proposal. He scoffed. The ring was plastic. Check the replay if you want. It's clearly a bit... He stepped closer, lowering his voice, his tone shifting from annoyance to that patronizing, the reasonable voice he used whenever I was upset. "Look, babe, you know I love you, but you've been so uptight lately. The guys were just saying you need to loosen up. We thought this would be funny, a way to break the tension. If you react like a crazy person, you're just proving them right." And right there, in that moment, I understood something I hadn't seen for 2 years. He was doing this on purpose. He wasn't just being insensitive. He was poking me. He was prodding a wound he had created, waiting for me to scream, to cry, to throw a tantrum, because if I screamed, the camera would catch it. If I screamed, I became the psycho girlfriend. I became the punchline. He needed my reaction to validate his narrative. He needed me to be crazy so he could be the long-suffering boyfriend who puts up with me. I took a breath. The air smelled like lake water and charcoal and stale beer. I looked at the phone in his hand. Still recording. I looked at his expectant face, waiting for the explosion. I didn't give it to him. "I'm leaving." "Brandon," I said quietly. I got in the car and locked the door. He banged on the window. "You're going to leave me here? Seriously, it's 4th of July weekend. My ride left an hour ago." I started the engine. "Call Kayla," I said through the glass. "Maybe she can give you a ride." I reversed out of the driveway while he stood there, middle finger raised. Yelling that I was a buzzkill and a bitch, I watched him shrink in the rearview mirror until he was just a speck. And then I turned onto the main road. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, but my eyes were dry. I wasn't sad anymore. I was something else entirely. I was awake. The drive back to the city was 3 hours. 3 hours of silence. 3 hours to think. But the silence didn't last long. About 20 minutes in, my phone started buzzing against the passenger seat. Once, twice, then a continuous, angry vibration that rattled my teeth. I glanced at the screen. Brandon, then Justin, then Ryan, then a number I didn't recognize. I pulled over into a gas station parking lot. Not to answer, but to look. I opened Instagram, and there it was. Brandon had posted the video on his story 5 minutes ago. The caption read, "When she thinks she secured the bag, but she's actually insecure AF." Laughing emoji, clown emoji, #psycho. He had tagged Kayla, Justin, and Ryan. I watched the video. It was worse than living it. On the small screen, I looked pathetic, small, hopeful, and then crushed. You could hear the laughter clearly. You could hear Kayla say, "Oh my God, look at her face." You could hear Brandon say, "Gotcha." I scrolled through the replies. Brandon's friends were piling on. Bullet dodged. Bro, she needs meds. Why are you even with her? Then the texts started coming in. Justin, come on. Alyssa, don't be a buzzkill. Just come back and apologize to Brandon. He's really upset you left him stranded. Ryan, it was just a joke. Chill out. You're making a huge scene over nothing. They were rewriting history in real time. In their version, I was the aggressor. I was the one who had ruined the weekend by leaving. I was the one who owed an apology. I sat there in the idling car, gripping the phone until my knuckles turned white. I thought about the last 2 years. It hadn't started like this. It never does. It starts small. The boiling frog. That's what they call it. If you throw a frog in boiling water, it jumps out. But if you put it in cold water and slowly turn up the heat, it cooks to death without ever realizing it's in danger. First, it was the jokes about my job. Graphic design isn't really work. Is it? You just colour all day. Then it was the jokes about my weight, poking my stomach when I ate dessert and asking if I was sure about that. Then it was the flirting with waitresses right in front of me, and telling me I was insecure when I brought it up. You're too sensitive. He would say, you can't take a joke. And I believed him. I adjusted my thermostat. I accepted a little more heat, a little more disrespect, because I loved him. Because I thought if I just tried harder, if I was just cooler, calmer, more understanding, he would go back to being the sweet guy I met at the coffee shop. But he wasn't that guy. He never was. That guy was a mask. This cruelty, this public humiliation, this need to destroy me for an audience, this was who he was. And his friends, they weren't just bystanders. They were enablers. They were insecure little boys who needed to tear women down to feel like men. They participated because it was a bonding ritual. Humiliating me was the price of admission to their club. My phone buzzed again. A text from Brandon. You're being ridiculous. Come back and pick me up or we're done. I stared at the words. Or we're done. As if that was a threat. As if losing him was a punishment. I didn't reply. I didn't block him. Not yet. I needed to see everything. I took a screenshot of his story. I took screenshots of the comments. I took screenshots of the texts from Justin and Ryan. Then I opened my banking app. I needed to see exactly what this relationship was costing me. Not emotionally. Financially. I scrolled through the transactions. The cabin rental for this weekend. $3,800. On my credit card. Brandon had sworn he would Venmo me his half when his commission check cleared. That was 3 weeks ago. The alcohol for the party? $400. My card. The groceries? $200. My card. I scrolled back further. The electric bill for our apartment. The internet. The rent. It was all coming out of my account. Brandon transferred money sporadically. Usually half of what he owed. Usually with a promise to make it up to me. I realised then that I wasn't a girlfriend. I was a sponsor. I was a silent investor in the business of Brandon's life. And the return on investment was zero. Actually, it was negative. I was paying for the privilege of being abused. I put the car in drive. I wasn't going back to the cabin. I wasn't going back to our apartment. I was going to my sister's house. Nicole. She was a lawyer. A shark in a pencil skirt. She had never liked Brandon. She had told me from day one that something was off about him. I had defended him. I had told her she was being judgmental. I could almost hear her voice in my head, I told you so. But it wouldn't be smug. It would be furious. I drove the rest of the way on autopilot. The sun was setting by the time I pulled into Nicole's driveway. The sky was a bruised purple. Beautiful and ominous. I walked up to the door and knocked. Nicole opened it, wearing sweatpants and holding a glass of wine. She took one look at my face, and her expression went from relaxed to lethal in a nanosecond. "What happened?" she asked. "Where is he?" I walked inside and sat down at her kitchen island. I put my phone on the counter. He proposed. I said. Nicole's eyes widened. What? As a prank? I clarified. With a plastic ring, in front of everyone, while his friends filmed it. Nicole put her wine glass down, very slowly, very carefully. "Show me," she said. I unlocked my phone and played the video. Nicole watched it in silence. Her jaw clenched so hard I thought she might crack a tooth. When it was over, she didn't say a word. She just picked up her own phone and started typing. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Getting the rest of the evidence." She said. "What evidence?" "My boyfriend," she said, not looking up. "Mark, he's in that group chat. The boys and Kayla chat. He never posts, just lurks. But he's been forwarding me screenshots for the last hour." My stomach dropped. "What screenshots?" Nicole slid her phone across the counter. "Read them," she said, "and then tell me if you still want to cry over this man." I looked down. The first screenshot was timestamped 10 minutes before the proposal. Brandon about to do it. Watch her face. This is going to be legendary. Ryan, make sure you get the crying. That's the money shot. Justin, she's going to be so confused, LOL. Then, after I left, Brandon, she actually left. Laugh my ass off. So dramatic. Kayla, she knew she couldn't compete. Bye, Felicia. And then, the one that stopped my heart. Brandon, don't worry, guys. She'll be back by Tuesday. She pays the rent. She pays the cards. She's pathetic. She literally can't afford to leave me. I've got her trapped. I read it again. I've got her trapped. Something snapped inside me. It wasn't a loud snap. It was quiet. It was the sound of a lock clicking into place. I looked up at Nicole. I wasn't crying anymore. I felt cold, clear. He thinks I'm trapped. I said. Nicole nodded. He thinks you're stupid. He thinks you're weak. He's wrong, I said. I pulled up my banking app again. I looked at the $3,800 charge for the cabin. The cabin is in my name. I said, the card is in my name. And the apartment Nicole asked, Only me on the lease. I said. His credit was too bad. The landlord rejected him. I let him move in as an unauthorized occupant because I felt sorry for him. Nicole smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was a terrifying smile. So, legally, she said, he's a guest who has overstayed his welcome. A guest who is currently trespassing in a vacation rental I paid for. I added, and a guest who just admitted in writing to financial exploitation. Nicole said, tapping the screenshot. We looked at each other, for the first time in hours. I felt a spark of something that wasn't pain. It was power. I don't want to just break up with him. I said, I want to evict him. From my apartment. From my life. From his own little fantasy world. Nicole pulled a laptop out of her bag. She opened a new document. Let's draft the notice, she said. 3 days. Notice to quit for nuisance and threatening behaviour. We can use the video he posted as proof of the threat. And the cabin, I asked? Call the bank, she said. Dispute the charge. Unauthorized use. You authorized a rental for you and your boyfriend. He kicked you out and is now using it to party with people you didn't agree to pay for. That's fraud. I picked up my phone. I dialed the number on the back of my credit card. While I waited on hold, I watched Nicole typing. The click-clack of the keyboard was the most soothing sound I had ever heard. It sounded like justice. This isn't revenge. I whispered to myself, this is accounting. I spent the next 2 days at Nicole's house. I didn't answer Brandon's calls. I didn't answer his texts. I went silent. Total radio silence. Tuesday morning came. The day he predicted I would come crawling back. I waited down the street until Brandon got home. He looked hungover, sunburned, and miserable. Perfect. I gave him 10 minutes to panic before walking upstairs. When I opened the door, he jumped up like he'd been saved. Then the mask slipped on the worried boyfriend act. Babe. Thank God. I was so worried. Why didn't you answer? I brushed past him. We need to talk. He launched right into excuses. He was drunk. His friends pushed him. It wasn't planned. He would never hurt me on purpose. Then he tried the I lied to protect you line about telling his parents I'd had a breakdown. I let him think I believed him. He relaxed instantly. So we're good? Yes. I said, just one question. If you never planned anything, why did you text the group chat 10 minutes before the proposal saying, watch her face? This'll be legendary. His face went white. And why did you tell them I was pathetic and stuck because I pay for everything? I pulled out my phone. I have the screenshots. He panicked, accusing me of violating his privacy. And I added, holding up my phone, I recorded this entire conversation. You admitted, lying to your parents, and confirmed everything. You recorded me. You're insane. One-party consent state. I said calmly. Then I tapped send. I just shared the video, the screenshots, and your confession with your family group chat. His phone exploded with notifications. I handed him a paper. Here's your eviction notice. 3 days. You can't do this, he whispered. Where will I go? I disputed the cabin charge. The bank reversed it to your account. And you're covering the deck damage. He stared at me like a child, learning fire burns. You're ruining my life. No, Brandon, you ruined yours. His mum's name lit up his phone. He grabbed his bag, spat, you're a bitch, and stormed out. And you're homeless? I said, goodbye. When the door slammed, the apartment went quiet, peaceful. I locked the door, grabbed water, blocked him and all his friends, and deleted his entire column from my expense spreadsheet. The numbers turned from red to black. For the first time in years, the silence felt like freedom.